It is Friday, April 18th, 2025. This is a very special edition of Baseball Today. I am Chris Rose, producer Dan, intern Sawyer along for the ride as well. Trevor Plouffe, a well-deserved day off. He is enjoying the last day of his vacation with his family. He will return on Monday's show. Tried to get some fill-ins. The schedule just didn't work out. And so people are like, well, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? We are relying on you, and I got to tell you, y'all hit home runs because you can see the last graphic is Ask Rose Anything. That is coming up in mere moments. Nothing is off limits. We've got some amazing questions. I want to thank everybody that put them in our comments section. Y'all did a great job. Great job. But we are going to start with a little baseball and some of my thoughts on what's happening around the world. Tip of the cap is to Patrick Corbin, one of the newest Texas Rangers. He actually did a nice job on Wednesday, 1 run in 5 and a Halos. And then we found out on Thursday he almost didn't make his start because he apparently got bitten by a spider and there was some venom that ended up maybe giving him a foot infection. He showed up to the clubhouse on Wednesday. He could barely walk. It was like 50-50 whether or not he could pitch. And Bruce Bochy was like, I don't know if you're going to do this or not. But he ended up going out there, spinning a gem, and fighting through some pain. Now, I got to be honest with you. If I get bit by a spider, I'm not showing up to work. I don't care if it's one room over in my house. I'm just going to call it a day. I'm going to crawl up in like the fetal position and say, I got bit by a spider, Jimmy and Jake. I can't talk. That guy goes out and he does his thing as a professional athlete. So tip of the cap to you, dude. Good work. I know for the last 5 years, pitching life has sucked for Patrick Corbin, but that one, yeah, all right, brother. Nice work. Okay, have you noticed what's going on in the Steel City? That's right, Oneil Cruz is getting warm.
Drive to right field. Oneil Cruz with a cruise missile. Oh, baby. Oneil Cruz. How about his last 2 swings?
Yeah, how about his last 2 swings? Pretty special, right? That provided the lone run in a 1-0 win over Washington. The night before, after the brouhaha, right? Ejection, suspension. He then goes and hits a grand slam. That's 2 pretty good consecutive at-bats. I suppose the big question about Oneil Cruz is he going to end up being just a good player or can he turn into a superstar? He's going to be 27 in October, so it's not like he's 23 and we're still waiting. Now, he did miss essentially a whole season, right, with an injury. He missed time, obviously, because of COVID. He didn't develop that year either. Some of his peripherals are incredible, right? When you look at the end of the season, guys who hit the ball the hardest, it's basically Shohei, Giancarlo, if he gets back, and Oneil Cruz. So we know that he could do that. He can hit the ball 450 feet. The problem with him is consistency. He just doesn't quite do it. I have a feeling he's going to settle in and be like a high 700s, maybe 800 OPS, it's good enough. That turns you into a very good baseball player. Does that turn you into a perennial all-star, an MVP candidate? No. The other thing is that they've moved him off a shortstop where he was throwing lasers in the infield. Like he would throw it over to first base and pitchers would be like, damn, I wish I had that arm. Well, they decided to move him to center field, and that has been nothing short of a disaster for him. He already, I think, has 4 errors and -8 runs saved. I mean, we've played 3 weeks this season. Those are some horrific numbers. His routes to the baseball are not very good. When he gets there, he doesn't always, he's like the Nelson Aguilar of center fielders. Like when you hit it to him, it's 50-50 whether he's going to catch it at times. So defensively, he's a nightmare. On the bases, I would like to see him keep stealing. So if he gets on first, let's go. And he is 8 for 8 this year. I think he was 22 of 23 last year. Let him utilize his legs. It takes him about 3 steps to get from first base to second base. So I want to see that part of his game grow as well. So I think that he's going to end up being a solid player. It wouldn't surprise me if he becomes an all-star at some point, but I think that that's probably where he tops out. And the only reason I bring it up is because I feel like on this show a couple years ago, we were asking which Cruz in the National League Central would you rather have, Oneil or Elly De La? And now that's not even a question. You'll get laughed out of the baseball circles if you even pose that one. Doesn't mean I'm taking shots at the kid at all. Just saying what I think he's going to end up being. Maybe he'll prove me wrong. We'll see from there. All right. Today's episode, Baseball Today, sponsored by Best Western Hotels and Resorts. Life's a trip, so why not make the most of it? With over 4,000 hotels worldwide, Best Western is there for every detour, destination, and unexpected turn along the way. Whether you're hitting the road, traveling for work, or chasing the next big game, there's a room waiting for you. But a great stay isn't just about rest, it's about what comes next. Because travel, as we all know, isn't always predictable. But that's what makes it great. Best Western is there for every wrong turn that leads to the right story, every unplanned turn that becomes a highlight, every moment that makes a lasting memory. So stay out a little later. Take the scenic route. Make the most of the ride. Ready to get going on your next adventure? It's waiting for you at Best Western. Life's a trip. Make the most of it at bestwestern.com. All right, let's take a look ahead to some of the fun weekend series out there, if you don't mind. I've broken it down into best series, most fun series, and most show me something series. So, best series is Dodgers and Rangers, partly because of the pitching matchups. DeGrom, Eovaldi, Molly against Yamamoto, Roki, and Glasnow. In part because the Dodgers' vaunted pitching rotation, no matter who's in there and who's healthy and who isn't, has yet to have a starter record more than 18 outs in a game. Let's see if you can do it. Nathan Eovaldi threw one of the complete game shutouts that we've seen all year. Jacob deGrom is a guy that obviously we've all got our eye on with what's going on. And we talked earlier this week about Molly and the fast start that he's had. You know, he signed a 2-year deal down there. They knew that he was damaged goods, the first one. And they said, well, 2025, you're going to be our dude. And sure enough, he is sprinting out of the box. On top of that, the Dodgers, until this most recent sweep against the Colorado Rockies, had just been playing meh ball. I want to see what they can do against the first-place Texas Rangers team. To me, though, the most fun series is the one that's going to happen at Wrigley. We've got the Diamondbacks and the Cubs, and this was the season opening series for the Arizona Diamondbacks. The Cubs had, of course, played a couple of games against the Dodgers over in Japan. The reason it's going to be so much fun is because these are two of the top offenses in baseball. First and third in runs, the Cubs are tops in the league. They're two of the top 4 in OPS. And Arizona's top 3 in its starting rotation are going this weekend, really trying to get it going. Like Zach Gallen had one great start. I think he struck out 13 guys against the Yankees. But Corbin Burns has not found his footing yet. Merrill Kelly has been so-so. So each of these 3 guys have high ERAs through a handful of starts. Is this the weekend that they're able to turn it on against one of the best offenses in baseball? I think that'll be a lot of fun to find out. Plus, any game at Wrigley, as long as it's not 38 degrees, count me in. Then I've got the most show me something series, and that's going to be Seattle at Toronto. We got this in the postseason a couple of years ago, and it was a wild, wacky series. Remember that Toronto's bullpen just destructed in a do-or-die game? Seattle, we always talk about their offense or lack thereof. Well, over the last week in 7 games, they've scored 44 runs. They scored double digits in their come-from-behind win against the Cincinnati Reds on Thursday. So we wonder, are they starting to hit a little bit of a stride offensively? Toronto, they've been really solid so far. One of the best records in the American League. They got the Vladdy deal signed. Obviously, the attention now turns to Bo Bichette. So, you know, what I would say is these are 2 teams that have to show us something. Toronto hasn't won a playoff game, I think, since 2016. Seattle, we know about their lack of playoff prowess. They've got this amazing rotation, and we look at the offense and the lineup, and we say, when are y'all going to be able to do something special? Like at some point, can we get it done, please? So that's what I would say. Those are 3 series. Of course, you can leave a comment down below which series you're most looking forward to. Is there somebody you're looking forward to maybe pitch this weekend or a guy to take off? Maybe somebody on your fantasy team. I want to hear from you. It's that simple. We like doing that sort of stuff. Okay, today's episode, Baseball Today, sponsored by BOSCH. When you pick up a BOSCH power tool, it makes you feel empowered, confident, and appreciated no matter what job lies ahead. You're going to simply crush it. As a global leader of power tools, measuring tools, and accessories, Bosch's innovative product solutions are built with quality engineering and precision in mind. The assortment of products ensures that you have the right tools in your toolbox to tackle a variety of tasks with ease. Bosch's 18-volt battery platform powers numerous tools, creating a consistent energy home base that keeps the brand's family of tools running. Like your favorite players on the field, Bosch Power Tools make sure that you are powered up and ready for anything that gets thrown your way, because the more you Bosch, the more you feel like a Bosch. Head to BoschTools.com today to learn more about the power tools you need to get the job done right every single time. And speaking of time, it's time for our Like a Bosch Player of the Week, brought to you by Bosch Power Tools. Just like Bosch Power Tools, this player got the job done through hard work, grit, and determination. We just talked about the Seattle Mariners and their offense going, thanks in part to their $100 million catcher, Cal Raleigh, who was back at it again on Thursday, helped lead the comeback. Boom! I have no idea where that's landing. It might have head to Kentucky for all we know. Unbelievable. 6 homers in the last 6 games. Mariners win this one in extras. But the highlight of the day might have been Brad Adams' in-game interview with Cal's mom, Stephanie.
Before I let you go, I've got to ask, because there's some controversy on Cal's nickname.
Yeah.
And Todd said that it's appropriate and he's good with it. As a mom, a big dumper, do you want your son?
Stinks.
I thought you were okay with it now.
I'll roll with it.
Okay.
I'll roll with it. He's accepted it, so I'm good with it too. I won't say I love it though.
Yes, Mom. I love that. That was so well done. She was great. You know, I that they live somewhere in Carolina or something like that, and she said this is one of the closest stops we got outside of Atlanta, and of course, Cal does his business out in Seattle. So that was really cool. I love between the bobblehead of the dumper and then Mom asking or getting to answer the questions about her son's nickname, the Big Dumper. Like, would you love it if you were a parent and your kid was nicknamed the Big Dumper? You know what? I got to be honest with you. If one of my kids made the show and came home and their nickname was the Big Dumper, I would probably plaster that, A, all over their toilet, and B, probably just in their room. Maybe up on the ceiling, maybe on the walls. It's a thought. And in the Rose family, if you've seen me in person, the Big Dumper, there you go. I don't know if they do Rose Dumper bobblehead. You know what? NFL Network did me right, because my bobblehead, look at how svelte I look. This is ridiculous. I have not looked that good since prom. Yep. And no eyes. No eyes whatsoever. So don't qualify as too flat, actually, on the booty. No booty there. Okay. Have we reached that time? Is it time for Ask Rose Anything? I seriously want to thank you. I was super excited to do this. Our one-of-a-kind producer, Dan Rourke, was like, have him ask the questions in our comments section on our YouTube channel. Those would be the best questions. And sure enough, y'all nailed it. Now, because of time, I can't obviously get to all of them, but you did a great job mixing up baseball questions with kind of fun, everyday questions. So we're going to get to as many as we can. So let's just settle in, grab a stretch, and let's go have some fun. We're going to do this first one. I think I'm Joshua Meyer. Can you highlight one player in each division who stood out to you or that you're keeping an eye on? Okay, so I got 6 players written down. The AL East, I'm going to split it between Ben Rice, who is off to an amazing start. I will credit Dan Rourke, who obviously is a diehard Yankee fan. He goes, he's going to be out of this world good. He said that before the season. Now, he tends to say that for at least 41 guys in the Yankees organization, so he's bound to be right somewhere, but he did tell me that. The other guy in the AL East, I would say, is George Springer, just because that contract has not played well north of the border. He's off to a fantastic start in OPS over a 1-dotter. Now that Vlad, got his first homer, Bo Bichette, hopefully a few more extra base hits in the future. There's still a ton of talent up there. There really is. It was embarrassing they only had 74 wins. So if George can get anywhere close to what he was in Houston, then I think they'll. AL Central. I'm watching Jackson Jobe. I know that he only threw a couple of games last year in the regular season, and he was a part of their playoff teams. I think this kid's going to be awesome. And I said at the beginning of the year, I think that Detroit, by the end of the season, will have a top 3 rotation in the American League. And I think it's going to be because of his development. This kid is flat out nasty. All he needs is the experience. Is he going to get his head kicked in a few times? Yes. That's what happens. If he's bound to make between 28 and 30 starts, then, which I think would give him 29 starts since that's the number in between 28 and 30, then he's going to have a few that stink. That happens to every pitcher. But I think by the end of the year, he's a guy that they're going to rely on, and I think that they're going to win the division, and I think he's going to get a playoff start. I think it's going to be Skubal. I think it's going to be Flaherty. I think it's going to be him. I know there's a lot of Tigers fans that love Reese Olson, and I do too. I think he is a gamer. But I think Jackson Jobe has got something special. I really do. American League West. Paging Christian Walker. 1 home run in 65 at-bats. That is not going to do it. In fact, I believe the Astros are last in the division heading into the weekend. It's not panic time or anything, but when you lose both Alex Bregman and Kyle Tucker in the offseason, a guy who's consistently a 30-homer dude, we need him to show up, and he will. But I'm just keeping my eye on you. National League East, Aaron Nola. Don't know if you've noticed. Not a good start. ERA, I believe, over 6. He's given up a ton of hits. Strikeout numbers are fine. Walk numbers are whatever, but the hits are alarming. He's got to be better. This team they're either veteran or old. Old means that you were a disappointing team. Veteran means, man, we're going to draw on our experience come playoff time. Aaron Nola, let's pick it up a little bit. NL Central, Pete Crow Armstrong reportedly turned down a deal that could have netted him maxing out at $75 million. We don't know if that's accurate or not. Kid just had a monster West Coast swing through L.A. and San Diego, hit 3 homers. I'm going to tell you, even if he doesn't hit worth a shit, he will be a 4-WAR player every year just based on the way he plays defense and runs the bases. He's fantastic. So if he can hit, he is going to be a plus Kevin Kiermaier. And I love his attitude. He's a good, fun kid. NL West, Josh Naylor. It was the thing that Cleveland fans feared the most when he was traded in the offseason. We know business-wise why it was done. He was heading into his walk year. They weren't going to extend him. Speaking of extension, he is extending the ball over the fence. 3 straight games with homers, an OPS over 900. He's tearing the cover off the ball. He had a great last few days against the team that drafted him in the first round many moons ago, the Miami Marlins. He's got more walks than strikeouts. He's just doing it all. So, Josh, thanks for the question. That's one of the longer answers you'll get because we had to go through each division. Okay, this one from LGel 725. I think it's LGel or it's iGel. Regardless, I appreciate the question because what was the longest homer you've ever seen in person? I once saw McGuire hit one off the middle of the Bud sign in Shea Stadium. Don't worry, I'm not going to take off points for the McGuire spelling. I misspell it all the time. I think it's MCGW. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. But butcher that as well. But oddly enough, guess what? You and I, we're thinking the same thing.
About a half hour with him today. And there it goes! There it goes! Number 34!
Here's the 2-2. Off-speed pitch. Oh, my goodness! How far is this one going? Wow! Over the end of the scoreboard.
Yeah, wow is right. So those of you that are audio only, those were consecutive days at the old Jake in Cleveland, Ohio. I was living with Michelle in Atlanta at the time, working at CNN Sports Illustrated. Went out for a weekend, I think, a vacation, whatever it was in June. And we're going to check out Mark McGuire. Place was jammed. It was part of their consecutive sellout streak. And the first homer that he hit off of Jarrett Wright, I know I was definitely there for that one because the Indians scored 7 runs in the bottom of the first. And we were like, let's just root for McGuire to hit a homer because who cares? It's 7-0. And sure enough, I mean, look at where this ball goes. If you've ever been in that stadium, I thought he was going to hit the shell sign on the scoreboard. And then the next day against Dave Burba, he hit one off. There's poles out there kind of to the left of the scoreboard, those white poles, if you can see that, if you're watching us on YouTube. I'd never seen balls hit there, even in batting practice. So to hit it in a game was just unreal. And we got what we want. We got wins and we got McGuire homers, and those were the furthest ones I've ever seen. So that was pretty awesome. Thanks for bringing back a memory. That was very, very cool. All right, let's move on to the next one. These questions are great. I am so psyched to have you guys do all this stuff. Earlier this week, writes Syracuse Beast 5, you said you wanted the Orioles to make a big midseason trade. Could you dive deeper into that? Who'd you like to see them trade and trade for? Okay, so I'm going to be the first one to admit that I know the guys that are up here or have been up here for Baltimore. The younger guys that are still in the minor leagues, obviously I don't have that deep a dive on this, but I'll work with you. So there are two pitchers that I would have my eye on. Whenever you need a pitcher, you're going to talk about Sandy down in Miami. The other one is Pablo Lopez of the Twins, because we thought he was going to get traded in the offseason. I still think he's going to get dealt. The Twins, I don't know what the Twins are doing. I kind of wish Plouffe was. No, actually, I'm happy Plouffe's not here to answer this, because he would just go. He'd go into so many details about guys that I just don't care about at this point. I don't know where they are. I think they're a little off track as a franchise, and I think to hit the reset button isn't a terrible, terrible idea. The guys I would be willing to start a trade with if I was Baltimore, out of these guys in their mid to early 20s. Kjerstad, he's 26, so he's a little bit older. I think that a team like Minnesota and or Miami would be interested in him. I don't think you're over the hill at 26. The time that he's spent up here in the big leagues, he certainly hasn't looked overmatched. He hasn't had any 10 or 12 RBI like he does in the minor leagues, it feels like, when he's down there. But I still think I would like to see him play every day. So I'd like to see him get a shot. The other one is Kobe Mayo, who had a little bit of a temper tantrum at the end of spring training. He came out and said, I felt like I did everything I could to make the team and should have. He backtracked. Somebody in the organization, I'm sure, got to him and said, hey, listen, that's not the way we do shit around here. I think he's a guy at 23 years old that would be the centerpiece of a trade. By the way, he's gone down to the minor leagues, and all he's done is rake. His OPS, again, is right near 900. That's the dude you build around if you're one of these teams that has a pitcher. So those are guys that I would be willing to move if I were the Orioles. So hopefully that's a little bit more of a deeper dive for you, Syracuse. And by the way, Orioles fans, please correct me if I'm wrong on this stuff. I like it when you fill us in and you give us details. Hey, that's why it could happen, or this is why it won't happen. You can leave comments. I would appreciate it, actually. I think that'd be really good. All right, let's get into the personal side a little bit as we move on. This one from Dr. T 532. Just wanted to know how you got into doing all the things that you've done. How did you manage to get into the situation of commentating on everything from poker and battle bots to the NFL and Major League Baseball? It's a great question. So I got into poker because I was doing the Best Damn Sports Show period at the time, and my boss, a guy named George Greenberg, we started to get into the poker world. And he said, what do you know about poker? And I said, it's a card game. Other than that, I don't know shit. I've never played a hand in my life. He said, I want you to call it. And for people that don't know, we really don't do poker live. A little bit they've done it, but very rarely. It's basically a tournament. They show you the best hands. They cut it up. You have to dance around what's called all the table talk. That's when the players are kind of ripping on each other and having fun and telling jokes and getting pissed because they have a bad beat, or some guy who, grew up playing on the internet goes in on a hand that he never should have gone on. And so the pro poker players are all ticked off. Well, I learned, if you're a poker fan, I learned from a guy named Howard Lederer, who is one of the great poker players of all time. He would sit up with me at night and he would explain it to me as though somebody was teaching you baseball. Okay, when a batter steps in, if there's 4 balls before there's 3 strikes, or the ball is put in play, then he'll walk. And then if you foul a ball off with 2 strikes, it doesn't count as strike 3. So, he was explaining to me every term of poker at the most elementary level. He goes, okay, this is a call. This is a bet. This is a raise. This is the flop, the turn, the river, all that. I literally had to start from scratch. And the first tournament I ever did with him, a voiceover session, it was literally 44 minutes of show. So it was an hour-long show, but you take out the commercials. It's 44 minutes of content. It took me 4.5 hours to call, which, if you're not familiar with the television world, is an extraordinarily long time. I called the producer afterward, a guy named John Francis. I said, John, I'll quit right now. I do not want to slow down the product. He goes, nah, you'll be fine. So I ended up doing it, became halfway decent at it. I loved it. It was fun. BattleBots, I got the gig. I knew nothing about BattleBots. My agent said, watch the show. They want to talk to you about it. I watched it. I loved it. Our oldest son, Josh, he was finishing 8th grade at the time. He comes downstairs. He said, what are you doing? I said, well, I'm going to try out for this show. You want to take a look at it? We're spinning up clips on YouTube. 90 seconds into it, he goes, you're not doing that. I said, well, what do you mean I'm not doing it? He said, Dad, I'm going to get laughed out of school. I said, well, A, I don't even have the job, but B, it looks kind of cool. Like, what are you saying? Well, it ended up being a summer replacement on ABC. It did pretty well the first year. All of his boys in school loved it. I walked into his room one day. I said, Josh, you're welcome for not being a loser. Happy I took the job. The other stuff, MLB, NFL, I've just known people over the years. They were good enough to hire me at MLB Network based on my work that I had done at Fox Sports. NFL, I had worked with guys at Fox that made the jump over to the NFL Network, and they had space. They know I love to call highlights and host shows, and I've had a great marriage there since 2012. Had a great decade at MLB Network. No bitterness, I joke around like, what network's that? When I'm talking to guys and stuff like that. I still have dear, dear friends that are over there. Still text with Millar an awful lot, and, Camiotti and all those guys that are behind the scenes that helped us out. What can I say? I'm fortunate, people. Fortunate. All right, let's get to this one. From Brett. Hey, Chris, I've heard multiple times that Jose Altuve is a lock for the Hall. I'm a Giants fan, so I like it that the Astros cheated against the Dodgers, but how's he a lock for the Hall? Why wouldn't Barry be in there and Clemens? This is a great question. This is a tough one to answer. Number one, I think that Hall of Fame voters really look like Barry Bonds. I think they look at Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens as those who cheated the game individually, that it wasn't some sort of groupthink effort, that they just did it on their own, that they were selfish, that they didn't care. I've been on the record as saying if I had a Hall of Fame vote, which I don't because I'm not a member of the Baseball Writers Association, I would have voted both those guys in. I thought the sport screwed itself over because they didn't care. They didn't care enough about taking performance-enhancing drugs out of the game until, say, 20 years ago. They really didn't care. As long as the cash kept flowing, they were like, we're good. We're fine. And so if the game didn't care, why should we expect the players to care? So that was my thought process, right or wrong. You can leave comments on that thought. With Jose Altuve, I think there's going to be enough time in between 2017 and whenever 5 years after he's done playing to where people aren't going to care. I mean, Carlos Beltran is already up, making moves, and he's going to get in soon. And he apparently was one of the guys that designed the whole thing. And depending on what you believe, Jose Altuve is one of the guys who said, I don't want to utilize it. Now, did he benefit from it? Of course, he benefited from it. Guys that reached base based on the banging of the trash cans, then, he could drive those guys in or they drove him in. So he did benefit. People who said he didn't benefit, that no, he did. Should he have taken more of a leadership stance? Yes. Ultimately, should the organization have done a better job? Absolutely. And I think that's probably why it's going to be hard to pinpoint. People will say, well, keep them all out. Sure. I suppose if you're going to do that, then I would say no Beltran, no Altuve. If you want to take it as far as no Justin Verlander, because he benefited from it as well, even though obviously he wasn't at the plate. Like, I suppose you either go one way or the other. I personally would let them in. I would. I just, not that I don't see it as a big deal. I was really pissed off that it happened. Really was. Have I gotten past it? Yes, I have. But then again, I didn't have a team that was directly knocked out by the Astros. So if I'm the Yankees that year or if I'm the Dodgers, I understand it. Like, I totally get what you're saying. But at the same time, I would not vote for Jose Altuve based on that. I would vote for him. I just would. But this is a tricky one. So I want you to give like a 2-line synopsis in the comments as to why you would say, check mark, you're into Cooperstown, or why you would say no. But really think about it. It's going to be today's, let's do it together. Let's figure this out. All right, let's keep going. Continuing on this Hall of Fame track. Triple Crown. If you had the power, who is one player you would elect to the Hall of Fame? Could be a player you think is overlooked statistically, someone currently ineligible, or a favorite player who you think is important to the story of baseball. I love this question. And I'm going to get a little bit of grief for this one, I think. But one of my favorites growing up in the 80s was Dale Murphy of the Atlanta Braves. Back-to-back MVPs, a handful of top 10 finishes. A lot of people will say he was pretty much done by his early 30s, which if you look at his baseball reference page, yes. He finished with 398 homers, I believe 5 gold gloves, I think the same number of silver sluggers. He's a guy that started his career, I think he was a catcher, and then he moved to center field, and you could see making catches like this. He was one of the guys who put the Atlanta Braves back on the map and was just a fantastic ball player and well-respected in the league. And the question has always been, if he had hit 2 more homers and gotten to a nice round number of 400, would that have made a difference in the voters' eyes? Now, 400 obviously is not the same as 500. We get that. But 400 is still an incredible number. And I know that Dale has talked about this on shows before, but he said that he had 1 homer that was rained out. So he hit 1, but they didn't get to 5 innings to complete the game. And then he remembers guys bringing it back over the wall, which happens to every great home run hitter at some point in your career. So if those things happen, he gets to 400. Is he magically in Cooperstown? Probably not. Probably not. But he was one of my favorites. And I always say this. You can make almost an argument for or against any player that is a borderline-ish Hall of Famer. I use Craig Biggio as my example. I never felt like I was watching a Hall of Famer. I felt like I was watching a really, really good baseball player. But because he compiled so many amazing numbers, let him in. And I think there's nothing wrong with compiling numbers, because if you play 20 years in this league and you're healthy and you are productive, then you're all right in my book. But you can also have an amazing 6 or 7 year stint in baseball. And I think this is where it gets rough sometimes for people. That they say, no, you have to have more longevity. I don't think so. I think we have to rethink it, that if you were the best player or one of the 2 or 3 best players in baseball, which Dale Murphy was for like a 6-year stretch, and still your numbers end up being pretty good, like he had a better OPS than Tony Perez, doggy. He just didn't play as many years, so his WAR isn't as high. I thought Dale Murphy was great. You can leave your person. I think that's a great question, Triple Crown. It might be my favorite of the night. Okay, we got another one. This one's great as well, from Chuckle. I believe every baseball fan has one player growing up that they were a huge fan of for some reason, despite not being particularly good. For example, I'm a Dodger fan, and to this day, one of my all-time favorite players is Blake DeWitt, despite the fact he only played a few below average seasons in the show. Who was that player for you, and what was about them that drew you to them? This is a great, great question, because every baseball fan has that one player, for whatever reason, you just loved him. My guy had almost 3,800 plate appearances, played over a decade in the show, and did this only one time in his career.
1-0 pitch to the left-hand batter. He drives one down the right field line, headed for the wall. It's gone! Dwayne Kuiper just hit his first major league home run. How about that?
Hey, look at Dwayne on those bases.
Oh, is he one happy ball player?
That is the legendary Dwayne Kuiper, and he's legendary because he hits it high. He hits it far. I know I'm butchering his call, but you understand the point, which is he has become a tremendous play-by-play guy for the San Francisco Giants. And I had the chance to meet him many years ago and introduced myself. He knew who I was, that I was a native Clevelander, and you were one of my favorite players growing up because I pretended to be Dwayne Kuiper in the backyard when I would play ball with my brother Pete. Yes, I have a brother named Pete. And he would throw me these grounders, and we played with a rubber-coated baseball, so it would take these funky bounces off our cement, and it'd hit this little piece of wood, and it'd ricochet in the air, and I'd pretend to be Kuip, throw it under. Ugh, God, it was awesome. And I just loved watching him play defense. So that was my guy growing up. He hit his lone home run against a native Clevelander in Steve Stone, who, oddly enough, still a part of the broadcast world as well. And they will be forever intertwined. I love that. I want to hear from you who your favorite, like, non-star player is. This is a great question. I'm telling you, y'all killed it on the questions. This is so much fun. That's great. Okay, we got another one. This one from Jacob. The NL West is crazy so far. Chris, do you think it's possible all three wildcard teams come out of the division? No. In part because I don't believe, somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure I'm right. Dodgers, Padres, Giants, Diamondbacks have not played one another yet. So they are killing everybody else. They are four of the best teams in baseball. They are really, really good, but I don't think they played each other. So once they start playing each other, somebody got to lose every night. And I just think that somewhere else, we're going to have either the Phillies or the Mets. I think only one team from the Central gets in. I picked the Cubs at the beginning of the year. So I think you'll get two of the three wild card participants from the NL West, but I don't think you'll get all three. It would be crazy if it did. By the way, I'm visiting the Giants later today. If you're out in Anaheim, please say hello. Got a nice interview set up with one of their players that'll air soon enough on Dugout Discussions with Chris Rose. All right. What's next here? One from the Gali. What's your current hat count? How often do you thin the herd? Is there a hat that the Queen stole from you or likes best? Okay, good question. I did a rough count today around the house. I would say close to 200 hats. I am wearing one of my favorites, the Rome Emperors. It is great. It is a penguin wearing a toga and high-stepping around. I love my minor league hats. I'm going to be wearing a few new ones that teams have sent me, and I'll tag them where you can buy them because we love supporting the minor league franchises out there. And we all know that minor league hats are way better than major league lids. So I've got a bunch of every major league team, and then I've got probably 50 minor league hats, and then I've got a bunch of other hats that from other sports. Now, Michelle doesn't wear a ton of hats, but she did steal my Super Bowl hat that I got for free from NFL Network. As you can see, she's sitting with our, who is, in my opinion, a better looking Lady Gaga. She's hilarious too. She's great. I love her dearly. And there's Michelle wearing a hat, and there's some guy cheesing behind them in the photo at the Super Bowl last year. So she stole my Super Bowl hat. But that's okay, because I know where to find it. And more importantly, I know where to find her. You know what? If you want to, tell me about your favorite hat in the comments. I love hearing this stuff. Like, you ask me questions, I'll ask you. That's another one. We're almost wrapped up here, but this has been a great day. Who is your favorite? This one, I think, from, Weird Reliever. Who's your favorite weird reliever? Requirement, not a closer. Life is Boss, 7097. Okay, Turk Wendell, he did close at times, but he is the all-time weird reliever. All-time, the Turkometer they used to have in Chicago. Dude used to put licorice in his mouth, brush his teeth in between innings, and then stuff more licorice in his mouth. He also used to jump high, not just step over the line because he didn't want to step on it. He would jump high over it, the third base or first base line. He'd go out there. He'd draw stuff in the dirt. He would talk to himself. You could see the huge thing of licorice in his mouth. Look at that. That's not dip. That's not tobacco. And it ain't wacky tobacco. It is a huge thing of licorice, black licorice that he would put in his mouth. He was fun. He had the shark tooth necklaces. There it is. Bizarre dude. But fun. I wish he would have been so good on the Rose rotation, right? Maybe we'll find maybe in the offseason, that'll be our job for Dugout Discussions. Dig up some baseball fossils, if you will, because that's kind of like what I am. All right, that's a good one. Let's see here. What else do we have? Next one from DJ Wilson. Do you think baseball needs to schedule more in-division games and less interleague games? Is having the Yankees and Red Sox play only 13 times a year the reason the rivalry doesn't feel the same as 15, 20 years ago? Okay, so first of all, no. I love it that everybody plays everybody. I think that's how you grow the game. It's great that Fernando Tatis Jr. goes to Kansas City every other year, or that Ellie De La Cruz goes to Seattle every other year. Like, this is good for the sport. Or that Aaron Judge heads out to San Francisco where they can put on their Arson Judge jerseys every other year. That is good for the game. I love that part. And your second part of the question, no, that's not the reason the Yankees and Red Sox rivalry isn't what it was 15, 20 years ago. Go look at the rosters that played in the back-to-back ALCSs in 03 and 04. I mean, Ortiz, Poppy, Nomar in one of them, Pedro, plenty more on that side. My guy Millar, Yankees, Jeter, A-Rod, Clemens, Bernie Williams, Posada. It keeps going and going. Like, these are some of the best players of the last 40 years. There are good players that play for both the Yankees and Red Sox today. But how many of them are definitely Cooperstown worthy? There's not a ton. Not a ton. I know some guys are very young, but they're also two of the best series we've ever seen in the playoffs. Ever. Back-to-back 7-gamers, one which ends with a walk-off by the current manager of the New York Yankees, and the next one, the only 3-0 comeback in the history of the sport. Those are two of the best. I mean, that's why. It doesn't have anything to do with the fact they only play 13 times a year. But thank you for the question. It was a good one. Last one, I do believe. This is it for the Ask Rose Anything. From Pablo, my biggest question is, how did Chris Rose end up with Michelle? Respectfully. That I get that question a lot, to be honest with you, especially since dugout discussions came out. Let's be honest. She was desperate. She was really desperate at the time we met in Reno, Nevada 30 years ago. She'll tell you that. She was No, you know what? Quick story. I will tell you this. We met thanks to her sister, Denise. Denise and I worked at the same TV station in Reno. She came up to me one day and said, "Are you single?" I'd been there like a month. I was like, she goes, "It's not for me." I love Denise, by the way. We just are not a match at all. We both know that. She said, "It's not for me. It's for my sister." She showed me a picture. I was like, "Oh, she's very cute." She said, "We'll meet you out, after your shift. We go out in a big group. We meet at a bar called Chewy's and Jugs." I turned to my buddy, Kevin Mahan, who's a dear friend of mine to this day. He's our videographer. I turned to him as we walk in, and I say, "God, I hope that's her." And it was Michelle. And we talked, and that was it. I'm smiling for those of you audio only. That was it. We hit it off. We really hit it off. And I am very, very lucky because she is a hell of a teammate. We get along great. We discuss our issues. That's the one thing I would say to everybody that's in a relationship. We see things differently, which I think is good. But when we talk, we don't yell. We make our points. We listen. We discuss. We love each other. We've got 2 great kids, and we're very fortunate. And so that is the story of how I met your mother, Josh and Brady. There you go. I just want to thank you guys. God almighty, was this fun. I got to be honest with you. I know that this is not baseball today, and people will say, well, this show sucked. Some of you might feel, I get it. All I can tell you is that we were kind of in a desperate situation, so we needed your help, and y'all killed it. So thank you so much. Thanks to intern Sawyer and our one-of-kind producer, Dan, for pouring through those questions, helping us out, put the show together. We'll do this again at some point, I'm sure, when Plouffe takes another vacation in about 8 days. But he deserves it. He works his ass off here. He loves the company, and he needed a little personal time, which he should get. Everybody, enjoy your baseball. Sunday, we've got another Blitzball battle. Monday, we've got the latest dugout discussions with Chris Rose. Freddie Freeman will be joining us. It is an excellent conversation. You're going to love it. I'm going to tell you. Thank you again to everybody who sent in questions. I wish we could have gotten to all of them. Keep the comments rolling. Keep the positivity going. And have a wonderful, wonderful holiday weekend if you celebrate, okay? Everybody be safe out there. We will see you Monday on Baseball Today.